Good evening, class, and welcome to our performance management class for today. We are talking about um, li limiting factor. We are talking about limiting factor as a management accounting management decision making technique. The last time we were solving this question. This is May 2016 question 4 on limiting factor, and we didn't solve it completely. So we will start with this question again, and after solving it, we will go to the next topic for the day. So let's start this question all over again. Now, the management of Bengus Agro Limited, so that's the name of the company. I will go straight now and write it on my book. So this is ICANN past question. So I'll start here. This is ICANN. So this is ICANN past question. May 2016. May 2016. Question number 4. That is what we are dealing today. So this is Bengus Agro Limited. Bengus Agro Limited. So that's it. That's the name of the company. Okay, so let's read on. It says, it's planning for next season's cultivation and has asked you as a management accountant to recommend the optimal mix of vegetable production for the coming year. The current data is as follows. So this is cabbage, spinach, tomatoes, and carrots. Now this is the area occupied. So this is the land mass in acre occupied by cabbage and spinach, then tomatoes and carrots. Now this is the yield per acre. So it means that in 1 acre of land, 17.5 tons of cabbage is yielded there. So it means that we have 1 acre giving us 17.5. So how many will 30 give us? We'll soon find that out. The same thing with spinach, tomatoes, and carrots. Then we are asked here that this is the selling price per ton. This is the selling price per ton. Okay, selling price per ton is this here. Cabbage is 60,000, spinach is 75, tomatoes 90, carrots 81. Then we are asked to get the variable cost per acre, and these are the variable costs. Then this is the fixed overhead per annum, 62 million. Now we are told something here. The land area used for the production of carrots and tomatoes can be used for either crops, but not for cabbage or spinach. What it means here is that we'll divide this thing into 2 here. We'll divide this into, so this happens to be like, so let's divide this like this. This is like a piece of land. Now, this place allocated for carrots and tomatoes, you can plant tomatoes here, you can plant carrots here, you can plant carrots here and tomatoes here, but you cannot plant cabbage and spinach in this area. No, you can't. Also, the land area for cabbage and spinach can be used for either crops. So either crops, but not for carrots and tomatoes. In order to provide an adequate market service, the management must produce each year at least 70 tons so this is least at least 73 tons each. Okay, now we are told required present the present the profit statement for the current year. So this is for the current year. We are now asked to look for the prepare the profit statement. How do we prepare the profit statement? We are going to do it this way. We are going to look for the selling price or the sales revenue. We are going to look for the variable costs, and we will take away the variable cost from the sales revenue to get our contribution. After getting the contribution, we will remove our fixed costs, and that will give us the profit. And we are asked to look for profit statement. When we prepare this, that's our profit statement. So let's start right away. The A part is asking us for profit statement for the current year. So this is A1. I will say A1 profit statements for current year. Profit statement for current year. Okay, so I will now have to, let's give this a different color. All right, so let's go. We are going to abbreviate the names that we give to this, so we'll not give them the full names so that for the sake of space. For cabbage, we'll use CAB, spinach, we use SPI, tomatoes, TOM, and carrots, CARO. So carb spin. So let's go carb spin. Carb spin. The next one is Tom and car. Tom, car. Then we have total. All right. Let me give this some space here. So the spinach is here. Okay. So what do we do now? What do we do now? We will look at the selling price. How do we get the selling price? We have, okay, we are giving selling price. How do we get the sales revenue? So what we normally do here is we say selling price multiplied by quantity will give us sales revenue. So we have our selling price here at 6,000. So let's write that on the board here. Selling price, start with selling price. Or let me even start with acres. Let's start with acres, area occupied. Let's start with that, area occupied. area in acres. This should be 30, 30, 24, 36, and 30. 30, 24, 36, and 30. If you add them together, what do we have? Let's add them together. 30 plus 24 plus 36 plus 30. That gives us 120 acres. So we are dealing with 120 acres. Now we have the next thing here is, what is the yield per ton? Let's look at the yield per ton. We have yield per ton, yield per ton. So we have here 17.5, 17.5. Sorry, yield per acre. Sorry, it's yield per acre. Yield per acre. Yield per acre, which will give us in tons. 17.5 here, 14, then 15.75, 21. This is 14, 15.75, and this is 21. We don't add them together because they have different yield, different crops. So if this is the yield per ton and yield per acre, this is yield per acre, right? Now this is yield per acre. Let's multiply this yield per acre with the selling price to get our revenue for now. So we can say selling price, which is going to be in tons. Is that what the question says? Yes. Selling price per ton. Selling price per ton. Selling price per ton. So this is selling price per ton. So what is the selling price? We have 6,000, 60,000, 75,000, 90,000. So 60, 75, 90, 81. 60, 75, 90, 81. 60, 75, 90, and 81. Let's confirm again. That's fine. So what's our sales revenue per acre? So this is sales revenue per acre, because here we have yield per acre is 1 ton. The yield per acre is in ton. So let's look for this sales revenue. Sales revenue per acre. So all we need to do is multiply this and these two. We'll multiply 60 times 7, 17.5. So let's do it here. 60 times 17.5. This is 1050. So this is 1050. Of course, there is the 3 zeros there. Then we have 14 times 75, that gives me another 1050. 1050. Then we have 90 times 90 multiplied by 15.75. That gives me 1417,500. 1417,500. Then the last one here, 21 multiplied by 81. That gives me 1701. So this is 1701. Sorry. All right, so this is revenue per acre. So that's not the revenue that we want, although we can still do it that way. This is per acre, because here variable costs were also given to us in per acre. So we can come here and say variable costs per acre. So you see here, we've got revenue per acre, which will compare with variable cost per acre. So it's as good as saying this like sales per unit. So the acre is like per unit. So let's go for the variable cost per acre. We have fertilizers. Fertilizers here is 24, 20, 36, 32. Okay, so that's for fertilizers. We have seeds, 12, 16, 24, and 20. Okay, so we've done that of seeds. Then we have pesticides, 20, 12, 16, 20. Pesticides. Then direct wages. We have 320, 360, 400, 456. Okay, so now that we have, let's confirm these figures. Yes, they are correct. Now that we have that, we will now get our variable cost per acre. So we have our variable cost per acre. So let's add this variable cost together. We have here 24, I will leave the thousands, plus 12 plus 2 gives me 376,000. I'll do the same thing now for the second one here. 20 plus 16 plus 12 plus 360. That's 408,000. The third one, I'll do it same way. 36 plus 24 plus 16 plus 400. That's 476. The last one here, that's 32 plus 20 plus 20 again plus 456. 528. So this is your variable cost per acre. The next thing to do here is contribution per acre. So I will say contribution per acre. So this is also in Naira. Contribution per acre. I will simply say this sales revenue per acre minus variable cost per acre. I already have 528 on my calculator, so I will just put a negative sign beside it. I will say plus 1701. That gives me 1173. 1173,000. Okay. Then I'll do it from right to left now. I have 1417.5. I don't want to put the whole thousands together. Minus 476. I have 941,500. 941,500. I also have here 1050 minus 408. That gives me 642. So this is 642,000. Then I have here again 1050 minus 376. That will give me 674. So that's 674,000. Now this is contribution per acre. Then I'll bring these acres that I have here before. This 30, 24, 36, 30, which gave me 120 now. I'll bring them down again, but I can decide not to bring them. I will just multiply. I will just say acres. So 30, 24, 36, 30. So I will be multiplying this So this is going to be my contribution. So this is my contribution. So my contribution, so you see the systematic way I was doing it. I had to get to first do my contribution sales per acre because my variable costs were in terms of per acre. Then I got my contribution per acre. Then I bring the whole acres to multiply with contribution to get my total contribution. So let's do this now. 30 times 674. That gives me 2220. So this is going to give me 20220. I can decide to put the thousands here. Let me put the thousands. That's fine. The next one will be 642 multiplied by 24, just to keep them simple. I know I'm going to put 3 zeros at the end. 15408. 15408. Then I have the third one here, 941.5 times 36. That gives me 33894. 33894. Then the last one here is 1173 multiplied by 30, 35190. 35190 in thousands. Now this is my contribution. Contribution. Now at this point, I will need to know my total contribution. So what do? I'll add now all the contributions. Let me add from right to left. I have 35190 plus 33894 plus 15408 plus 20220. That gives me 104,712. So I'll write my 104,712 here. 104,712 thousands. So let me shift this down here. Thousands. And that's my contribution. Then I have my fixed cost here. Fixed costs. Now we are told in the question that the fixed cost is 62 million per annum. So I'll just take it down straight here, and I have my 62 million here. 62 million. So what I will now do here is to less 62 million from the bunch of things I've been doing here. Just a moment. Okay, so 62 million. So this is already here. I'll just remove 62,000 to represent 62 million. So I have 42,712. So 42712. 42712. So this happens to be our net profit. So with this now, you have done your profit statement. That's your answer to the first part of the question that asked for the profit statement for the current year. Now, this is just 6 marks. So, if you were to do it like this, that for every mark, you spend 1 hour 30 minutes, that's 1.5 for 1 hour 30 minutes for every mark. If you multiply by 6, you should be spending 9 minutes. So, if you spend 10 minutes on this question, you are efficient. So, if you are practicing, you'll be able to spend lesser time than this. It's of for the production mix that calling me now. Okay. So the second part of the question is asking you for profits for the production mix that you recommend. So in this case now, you are seeing a question. Yes, my network was breaking because someone was calling my line. Sorry. So can you just give me a moment? Give me a moment. Okay, so we've done the profit statement for the current year in A1. Second part is talking about that you would recommend. That means you're talking about next year. So in the next year, you are going to recommend something that will optimize profit for the company. Now you'll get to know here that the land mass for carrots and tomatoes, the land mass in carrots and tomatoes, you can plant something together, carrots, or you plant tomatoes, no problem. Then cabbage and spinach, you can plant either of them in the same place. So now you are going to be looking at this area versus this area. So this cabbage and spinach, which will you rather plant? And tomatoes and carrots, which will you rather plant? So what are you going to do now? They said here that management must produce at least 70 tons of spinach and 63 other spinach and carrots and 63 tons of either tomatoes and carrots. Just a moment, please. Okay, so how do we do this? You remember that for us to decide optimal production mix, we need to look at the first rule was to know our contribution per unit. But in this case now, we don't know contribution per unit. What we have here is contribution per acre. Then we need to identify our limiting factor. Now, our limiting factor we were not told directly what our limiting factor is, but we are told that there is a restriction on land. You cannot use the land for carrot and tomatoes. You cannot plant cabbage and spinach there and all that. And they told us the minimum that you can list for each ton. So now this makes the land here, which is in area, the area of the acre. We look for the contribution per acre is what we have just gotten. Okay, so let's see the second part. Let's officially write what we are asked in the second part. Profit for the production mix. So we'll say A2 profit for production mix. Okay, so we'll do as before. So we have cabbage. So this is carb. The next one should be spinach. Then we have tomato. Then we have carrots. And our total. So the first thing now to do is, this is our contribution per acre. This is in naira. Let me put it in 3 naira sign. Contribution per acre is what we just did here before. Let me do it so that I can see it here. This is going to be 674. This is going to be 642. This is going to be 941.5. And this is going to be 1173. I've already put 3 decimal and 3 naira sign and 3 zeros. So contribution per acre is like contribution per unit. Now, what is our limiting factor? Our limiting factor is the acres of land. And of course, that means we are supposed to now look for contribution per limiting factor. So contribution per limiting factor is still going to be contribution per acre. Contribution per acre. So now this contribution is our limiting factor. Our contribution per limiting factor here. So we will now rank. Normally, this one ranks number 1. This one ranks number 2. This one ranks number 3. And this one ranks number 4. So I'll come here, general ranking. Sorry, this is not the spelling of general. So general ranking. General ranking. So this is our general ranking. Then ranking based on restrictions. So we said before that cabbage and spinach, you can plant either of them. So between cabbage and spinach, which one will you rather rank as number one? So cabbage is having more contribution per yield or per acre than spinach. So this is like the first that you are going to do. Then in this restriction, this is going to be the second. Then based on tomatoes and carrots, you are going to do this one first, and you're going to do this one second. Although carrots and tomatoes rank more than cabbage and spinach, you cannot you cannot plant tomatoes where cabbage and spinach is being planted. So that's why we're doing it this way. So it means in the cabbage and spinach section, you concentrate first on cabbage before spinach. In the tomatoes and carrots section, you concentrate first on carrots before you do your tomatoes. Now, you were told that management must produce at least 70 tons each of cabbage and spinach. So 70 tons of cabbage and spinach. So you must produce at least. So in this second side, this is where you will do the minimal, the list. So for you to do this is your minimal restriction. This is your minimal requirement, minimum requirement. Now you have to do 70 tons, right? Now, if you are going to do 70 tons, how many acres will you need? So this is 70. Remember, you have 14 yields per acre. So you are going to divide 70 by 14, and that will give you the number of acres you will need. So 70 divided by 14 will give you 5. So what you need here is you need 5 acres here. You need 5 acres here. And what happens? The landmass of cabbage and spinach is 30 plus 24. So it means that having used 5 acres for spinach, the rest of the whole place is for cabbage. So what I will do here, this is 30 and this is 24. So what I will do here, and I will say this is 30 plus 24 minus this 5. 30 plus 24, that is the total land area available to cabbage and spinach, minus what you have just dedicated to spinach. That's what you will use for cabbage. So I will have here 30 plus 24 minus 5. That means I will have 49. I'll have 49 here. I'll have 49 here. Let me bring this 5 down. So this is 5. This is 49. Now the same thing here. You are told that you need Okay. All right, so we said 63. Somebody is asking, why do I divide 70 by 40? Okay, so this is 14 tons here, and we have 70 tons as minimum requirement. We want to know how many acres will 70 tons occupy. So we know that we are going to do spinach. We are going to do spinach second. And because we want to do spinach second, we were told that the minimum we can do for any of these two is 70 tons, right? So whichever you are doing, you cannot do below 70 ton for either of them. So what we now say is, because we can plant cabbage and spinach anywhere, and spinach is the second in our ranking, give spinach the barest minimum. Don't give it more than the minimum. And now the minimal is 70 tons. And now we say, how many acres can this 70 ton minimal occupy? So we look at it now that spinach can take 14 yield, or can take 14 tons, can take 14 tons in 1 acre. And we have 70 tons to do. So how many acres will it carry? It's just like saying here that you have 70 crates of egg, right? You have 70 crates of egg lying down, and you want to know how many crates will you arrange them. And we are not told that each crate can carry 14 eggs. Each crate can carry 14 eggs. And you have 70 eggs lying down there. How many crates will you house them? You simply say 70 eggs divided by 14 eggs per crate, which will give you 5 crates. So that's 5 crates times 14 eggs, each of them will give you 70. So that's the same thing. We are saying that if 14 tons is for 1 acre, and we need to do 70 tons minimum, how many acres will it occupy? So that's why we did 70 divided by 14. So that gives us 5 acres. So I will just come here and will say this is required acres, right? So this is 5 here, the minimal. Then the rest of the acres will be occupied by cabbage. So there is 30 plus 24 minus this 5, because this 30 plus 24 is everything. So since you have given 5 to spinach, 49 will naturally be for cabbage. Now let's look at the next one, which is, we are told 63 tons of tomatoes and carrots. So the same principle, this is 63 here. You need to do 63. That is the minimum you can do. Now, how many tons is in 1 acre for tomatoes? We have 15.75. So I will divide it by 15.75. 15.75. So when I do that, I will say 63 divided by 15.75. That will give me 4. So this is going to occupy 4 acres. The same reasoning, you have 63 eggs lying down, you want to house them in crates, and you say for these tomatoes, 15.75 tomatoes, okay, let me not use eggs, say tomatoes, seeds of tomatoes, you have 63 lying down, and the tomato crate can take 16.75 per crate. So how many crates will you bring? Is 4. So the remainder will be occupied by carrots. So this is 36 and 30. So I will do something here, 36 and 30. So I will say 36 plus 30 minus 4 that you've given out to tomatoes. So how many would that be? 36 plus 30. Sorry, this is going to be 30 minus 4. That should give you 62. So this is going to be 62. So in that way, you are utilizing the whole area. So now, if we were to add up all of these, so let's see, let's add up now. 62 plus 4 plus 5 plus 49. That gives us our 120, which we had here. So we are utilizing the whole 120, but we are giving 69 to this cabbage here, and 5 to spinach, 4 to tomatoes, 62 to cabbage. Now this is your required acres. So what you will not do again is you will say contribution per acre, contribution per acre. I gave us in 3 zeros. So this is going to be 674. This is going to be 642. This is going to be 7, okay, sorry, 941.5, and this is going to be 1173. Okay, I'm going to multiply. So this will give me total contribution. So this will give me contribution. So this is also going to be in three zeros. Let's leave it that way to keep it simple. So we have 49 multiplied by 674. That will give me 33,026. 33,026. I'll underline it here. Then I will do the next one. 5 multiplied by 642. That will give me 3210. 3210. I'll underline. Next is 4 multiplied by 941.5. Multiplied by 4, that gives me 3766. 3766. Then the last one is going to give me 62 multiplied by 1173. That gives me 72,726. 72,726. Now I'm going to add everything together to get my total contribution. So I have this in my calculator. I'm going to plus 3766 plus 3210 plus 33,026. Now that gives me 112,728. 112,728. That's my contribution. All right. Now we have our fixed costs. Our fixed costs is 62 million as we are told. So I will put my 62,000 here to represent it as 62 million. And this is going to be our profit. So let's calculate the profits now. Minus 62,000. That will give me 50,728. 50,728. So that's the answer to the second part of the question that asked you for the production mix, profit for the production mix you recommend. So what is the production mix you recommend here? The production mix you recommend here is to use 49 acres to devote it to cabbage, 5 acres for spinach, 4 acres for tomato, 62 acres for carrots. And this is the profit, the contribution you're going to make, and this is the profit. So that's your question. So you see how this limiting factor has come to be applied in this special way. The third one is advise the management on which of the vegetable they should concentrate on production, assuming that the land could be cultivated in such a way that any of the 4 vegetables could be produced and there was no market constraint. So 2 things here. Now, in this question, there is no segregation. You can plant cabbage here, can plant cabbage here, can plant cabbage tomatoes area, can plant cabbage in carrots area. You can plant anything anywhere. You plant anything anywhere. Which will you concentrate on? And they say there is no market constraint, means market is not your problem. You can get as much as possible. So which will you concentrate on? So we'll go back again. So we're asked to advise which vegetable to to adopt. So let's go and do our question B. That's B1. So this is B1. Which vegetable to plant if no restrictions? So there are no restrictions whatsoever. So what do you do now? You will come back again. This is going to be your cabbage. This is still your spinach. This is your tomato. And this is your carrots. You can put your total here. No problem. So the first thing to do here is your contribution per acre. So what is your contribution per acre? We have it here, 674. Okay, let me put it down here in 3 naira sign. So this is 674, 642, 642 941.5 941.5 and 1173 1173. Now, if you look at this, there is no limiting factor here. You are told that sales constraint is not a problem. There is no sales constraint, no land restriction. You can plant anything anywhere. Which of these will you plant? You are going to plant the one that will give you more contribution. So that means you will not plant spinach because spinach will give you the least contribution. You won't plant cabbage because it is the second least. So you will now rank. You will now rank. You will now rank. So this is your first. This is your second. This is your third and fourth. So based on that, you say based on the ranking, carrots should be produced or planted. So that's it. You see the mark allocated to it, 2 marks. So just 3 minutes. You should do that in just 3 minutes. Now you are asked to calculate the break-even point of sales for the most profitable product. Your break-even point for the most profitable product. So I haven't taught you break-even point, but we'll still try our hand on that. So this is B2. Break-even point of most profitable vegetable. Okay, so that's it. All right, so you will say most profitable is carrots, right? Now your break-even point in Naira is going to be your fixed cost divided by contribution sales ratio. Contribution sales ratio. So we know our fixed cost to be 62 million. But what is our contribution and what is our sales? That's what we're going to do now. So we will say sales revenue is simply what is the selling price for carrots? Let's not go too far. Selling price for carrots here is 81,000. So that will give you 81,000 multiplied by, so this is selling price per ton, right? What is the yield per ton? Yield per acre is 21. 21 is the yield. And so this is going to be 81 times 21, which is what we call the yield per acre. Then we are going to multiply it by the number of acres. Number of acres is 120. because you are now planting carrots everywhere. So you plant carrots everywhere. In 1 acre of land, you get 21 carrots or so. Then you are going to plant carrots in the whole of the 120 area, and you are selling them each 81,000. So what are you going to get here as your sales revenue? We have it here as 81 multiplied by 21 multiplied by 120. That will give you 204,120. 204,120. That will put my 3 zeros. Then your variable costs. What is going to be your variable cost? Variable cost here is in per acre. So I'm going to add all of these: 32, 20, 20, 4, 5, 6, 32, 20, 20, 4, 5, 6. So I will say 32, 20, 20, 4, 5, 6, right? These are per acre. All these are per acres. Now I'm going to multiply it by 30. Anything I get here, I'll multiply by 30. Of course, it's implied that there's 1,000 here. So even if I didn't put the 1,000, you know there is 1,000 here. For the sake of space, I didn't put the thousands. But in my final answer, I will put the 1,000. So there's 32 plus 20 plus 20 plus 4, 5, 6 multiplied by 30. I have 15,840. So I will come here and I will say 15,840. I'll put my 3 zeros. Now, because this is variable cost, I'm putting it in brackets. Then what I have here is contribution. So this is my contribution now. Contribution. So I'll put a negative to this so that I can minus it. 204,120. I have 188,280. 188,280. Of course, there's 1,000 here. This is my contribution. That is my contribution. That's not all. We have contributions to sales. So my contribution sales, also called CS ratio, is going to give me, my contribution is 188,280 divided by my sales, which is 204,120,000. Let's see what that will give us. I already have this here in my calculator, so I'll just say divided by 204,120. I wouldn't want to leave it like this, so I will just leave my answer the way it is here. This is my contribution sales ratio. I'm content with doing it like this. I will go now to my break even point in Naira. I'll quote the formula again: fixed cost, and I will say divided by CS ratio. So my fixed cost, I already know, is 62 million. and we are dividing. I will say divide. Let me do it this way. Divided by my CS ratio. When you divide by your CS ratio, this is going to be 188,280 multiplied by 204,120. Now in mathematics, when you change this divide to multiply, it's going to give me 62 million. Now if I say multiply, the one that is down will go up. That's going to be 204,120. The one up will come down, divided by 188,280. So let's see what that will give us. We have flipped the coin up now. 62 million multiplied by 204,120,000. No problem. Don't bother about what you see in the calculator. Now just divide by 188,280,000. So it's going to be, I'll look at it again, 67,216,061. 67,216. I'll look at it again, sorry. 67,216,061. 061. Of course, this is in naira, so this is your break even point in naira. So what it means here is, if you are to make a sales of this is the break even point of sales that you can make, that you will neither make profit nor make any loss. So this is the sales revenue that you need to make neither profit nor loss. Of course, if you are to remove your variable cost, if you are to make this as your sales and you are to remove your variable cost and fixed cost, you will be getting a profit of 0. So this is what you are asked to do. And that concludes this question. You may want to go through the question again to see how you can better understand it. I'm still getting questions here. So why are we not using 62 million divided by 0.922? I don't understand that question. Why are we not using 62 million to divide by 0.922? If you divide it, okay, let's do it that way. Where did we get our 0.922? We said 188,280,000 divided by 204,120,000. That is where we get our 0.922. If you do it that way, you are going to get the same answer. So let's leave this answer as it is now and come here and say 62 million divided by 0.922. It's still the same thing. It's just a rounding error. It is the same thing that you've got. Now, the reason why I didn't use it is because I don't want to round this yet. This 188,240 that I used here, like this, divided by this, is still the same thing as 0.922. But I didn't want to just use 0.922. I want to follow another mathematical convention such that I can change divide to multiply and flip the denominator to become numerator and the numerator to become denominator. So in this way, I can now divide or multiply and divide, and I'll still get the same thing without having to first of all approximate, then do it again, and I'll get an answer. Now, did you see that the answers are almost the same? But if you look at it now, this is 67,216, 67,245. If you are doing it like that in the exam, you will get all your full marks despite the method you use. But if you want to check which one is more correct, is the one I did. My method is long, right? No problem. I am teaching you two things. I am teaching you mathematics and I'm teaching you PM. Now, one thing about this is that whichever way that you think is better for you, that is fine. Whichever way you think is better for you, that is fine. Now, if I were to use this other one here, no problem. But you see here, if precision was required, this one you have done more than what is required. But in the exam, you will still be given accurate and your answer will be the same. But if you are to put this on the Excel sheet, this one I did here would have given you the correct answer. But no problem, that is fine. Both methods are okay. So whatever method you want to use is fine. Now, the reason why I did this again is sometimes you may encounter something that this is the only best method you can use in solving it. So no problem. You can go ahead and use your 62 divided by 0.922. So that is all we can take for this question here, limiting factor. We have solved this one now, limiting factor, break-even analysis. So the next thing we will do now is to take another topic, which we will discuss a little and see whether we can solve something either now or the next time. So the next topic we shall take is short-term decision-making techniques. Short-term decision-making techniques. Now, remember we learned relevant costs. Relevant costs can be applied to both short-term decision and long-term decisions. Now, short-term decisions are decisions where the financial consequences of what you've made will occur sooner. For example, a decision you take could be in the short run if you see immediate profits. So something that gives you immediate profit, a decision you take that gives you that is a short-term decision. Now, a long-term decision may be one that requires capital investment. So it means that you are looking at investing in fixed assets like that, and the investment will be obtained over a period of years. That's long term. But once you take a decision that will the effect is seen almost immediately or over just 1 year, that is short term. The concept of relevant cost is the same for both short term and long term, except that for long term decisions, the time value of money will be taken into consideration. We are going to look at that when we are doing things like NPV, IRR, and all that. They require long-term decisions. And we're going to look at the time value of money when we do that. But for now, we are going to be looking at short-term decision making where relevant costing could be used. One of them is one-off contracts. I remember one of the examples we did in relevant costing, we did a one-off contract. Yes, we did a one-off contract, and that is an example. So management may want to decide whether or not to undertake a contract for a specific price. If it is a one-off contract rather than a regular production work, it will be worthwhile undertaking the contract if the extra revenue from the contract is higher than the relevant cost, including opportunity cost. So what it means there is that if you are doing bread, you are using flour to do bread and all that, and you have capacities, capacity, and you are not to do cake using these materials, and they give you a specific price, and you look at it, how is it going to be worth your while is if the relevant costs versus the relevant revenue. The revenue you are going to, how much are they paying you for that job? That is your relevant revenue. How much are you going to spend on doing the job for them? That's your relevant cost. So if the revenue is higher than the relevant cost, then you are going to undertake that. We're going to be looking at make or buy decisions, shut down decisions, joint products, or further processing. We may not be able to take this joint product or further processing, but we'll look at make or buy decisions. Now let's look at make or buy decisions. You need to either make the item internally or buy that thing from an external supplier. Or you want to decide whether to do some work with internal resources or to contract it to outside organizations such as a subcontractor to do the job. Now, let me take an example now. Let's say you are a manufacturer of a soft drink. Let me give an example, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola manufactures soft drinks. What is Coca-Cola known for? They are known for the liquid content, right? So that is their main job. But you cannot buy this liquid content just like that. It must be housed by a container. So let's say the plastic bottle, then there is a cork. So you can decide to make that plastic bottle so that you can house your drink, or you can decide to give it to a contractor, outside contractor, to do that for you. What about the crates which you are going to put them? What about the cork which you are going to use to cork them? You can decide that, okay, a, a subcontractor can do it, or you can do it yourself. Now, the thing is, if you do it yourself, you are going to ensure standard, but while you are doing that yourself, some of the time that you would have been spending in doing your main product will be divided. If you give it out to an external consultant or subcontractor, that is what they specialize in doing, that's fine. You may get good run for your money. They may want to cut cost and give you substandard product. And maybe because they are pressed for other things, they may not meet your production schedule. So these are some of the things that are non-financial in nature that you need to consider when you are doing make or buy or outsourcing. But before you consider the non-financial decision processes, you need to first of all look at what is the monetary aspect, what is the financial part saying. Now, for you to concentrate on whether to make or buy, you need to check whether you are going to the relevant cost, the relevant cost versus the revenue that you are going to make. Which one is bigger? If the relevant cost is bigger than the revenue, then that is if you are giving it out and it's going to cost you more than if when you make it. So you, by all means, you make it. So what I'm saying here is the relevant cost of making it versus the relevant cost of contracting it outside. That's a better language. The relevant cost of making it versus the relevant cost of giving it out. Now let's give an example. If you can make your bottles for 50 naira in-house, relevant cost, which is variable cost, but you go to the outside market and you're buying it for 70 naira, will you want to go and buy it for 70 naira, knowing that you're going to do thousands of them? That 20 naira difference means a lot. So you could as well do it by yourself. So that's from the point of view. Another point of view is like what is the hours of work that will be saved, or the cost that will be saved if you do it yourself, or what is the cost that will be saved if you subcontract it. These are the two ways to look at it. Now let's look at this question now. A company makes a component that is included in a final product that it also manufactures. Now let me give you an example. A company manufactures a component. Let's call that component battery, that is included in a final product. Let's call it wristwatch. So let's say the final product is wristwatch, the component is battery. So the company can do the battery, can also do the final product wristwatch. Management have identified an external supplier who will be willing to supply the component, that is the battery. We are using battery as an example. An external supplier is saying, instead of you doing both watch and battery, allow me to supply you the battery. That's my specialty. Now, the variable cost of manufacturing this component, this battery internally, is 100 naira. That's the variable cost. The external supplier will be willing to supply the components, that's the battery, for 130 naira each. It has been estimated that cash savings on general overhead expenditure will be 48,000 if each year, if internal production of that battery is ended. What it means here is that if you decide to give the outside contractor, please be giving us the battery, give us the battery, it means that department that is doing that battery for us, they will stop doing the work, and you will save 48,000 naira every year if that department does not function, and you are channeling the activities of that department into the main thing you are doing, whereas the company is now getting this thing this battery from outside are for 130 naira each. Now, the company needs 1,000 units of this battery every year. Now, the question is, should the company make or buy the component? Now, let's look at it now. Solution: extra cost of purchasing internally. Why do we say extra cost? The company is making it 100 naira. External person is saying, I will give you for 130. So what it means is that whether you do it for 100 naira or you go and buy it for 130, at least you will spend 100 naira. At least you will spend 100 naira. Whether you do it internally or externally, minimum 100 naira will go. Now, what is the extra that you will spend that is relevant? That extra you will spend when giving it outside will be the difference of 30. So 30 multiplied by 1,000, that will give me 30,000. So we put it in bracket because you are going to spend that money. So you are going to spend 130, yes, but if you are to do it internally, you will spend 100 naira. So at least 100 naira must be spent. So that one is not relevant because it is unavoidable. You must spend at least 100 naira. But that extra 30 is avoidable. Why is it avoidable? Because you can decide not to give it out externally and you save that 30. Or you can decide that, oh, I want to give it out, so you spend it. So that is relevant. So that extra cost is 30,000. Now, it says that if you are spending this extra cost to go and give this thing out to outsiders, you are saving yourself 48,000 naira each for spending extra 30 naira per unit. So for the whole year, you are spending 30,000 naira extra, and you are saving 48,000 naira in the year. So when you say 48 minus 30, it means the net benefit, you are gaining 18,000 naira each year for doing it outside. So what do you need to do? Go ahead, do it outside, because when you do, the company is going to save 18,000 naira in a year. What's the conclusion? The company would increase its profit by purchasing externally instead of making the items in-house. So the recommendation on financial consideration is therefore to buy or outsource, not to make it internally. So that's one part. Now, this is a second way to look at make or buy. Now, in this first instance we did, there was no restrictions, no scarce resource. But now, in this one, we are talking about make or buy decisions with scarce resources. Now, this is like limiting factor. It's a different situation arises when an entity is operating at full capacity. Because you are operating at full capacity, you don't have anything to spare, no time to spare. But you have the opportunity to outsource some of your production in order to overcome restriction on its output and sales. So you want to beat your market constraint. You cannot do everything on your own. You don't have any time, but you still need to deliver. So you have scarce resources now. You need to outsource. Now, the question is, which would you outsource and which would you want to do in-house? For example, a company might have a restriction, at least in short term, on machine capacity or availability of skilled labor. So you can seek to overcome this problem by outsourcing some of its work to an external supplier who makes similar products and has some spare machine time or labor capacity. In this type of situation, a relevant cost approach is to assume that the entity will seek to maximize its profits. That's number one. And therefore, it will outsource some of the work, provided that the profit will be increased as a consequence. The decision is about which item to outsource and which one will be retained in-house. So you need to think, among this product that you are giving out or doing in, which one should I do? Which one should I outsource? It's just like limiting factor. You are saying that, okay, we have several products. Which one should I do? Which one should I not do? You will normally do a ranking. We are going to be seeing something similar. So we need to identify the least cost outsourcing arrangement. So what it means is that anyone that you are going to outsource should be the one that should cost you less. So it means if you are looking at the cost benefits, if you're looking at the costs and you rank them, you will give out the one that will cost you so less so that you pay little, and you do the one that would have cost you the most if you have given it out. So here, we need to identify the least cost outsourcing arrangement. It is necessary to compare the additional cost of outsourcing production, like we said, additional cost of outsourcing an item with the amount of the scarce resource that will be needed to make the item in-house. Costs are minimized and so profit are maximized by outsourcing those items where the extra cost of outsourcing is the lowest per unit of scarce resources saved. So this is another application of limiting factor. Now we are using that application to do make or buy. Let's see an example here. Let's look at it now. A subcontractor, a contract cleaning company provides three services, which are daily cleaning, daily office cleaning, that's one, intensive cleaning, that's two, and minor repairs. However, it has insufficient resources to do all the work available and wishes to use a subcontractor to take on some of the work. Information relating to the different type of work is as follows. Now look at the average labor hours per job. For daily cleaning, you need to do 4 hours for one job. 4 hours it takes you to clean one job. To do daily cleaning takes you to do 4 hours per daily cleaning. Intensive cleaning 6 hours, minor repairs 3 hours. Now look at the budgeted quantity of job. This is like budgeted sales, budgeted quantity or budgeted sales unit. Now look at the variable cost per job. This is 600, 1080, this is 560. This is the quotation that the subcontractor gave to you. And there are 8,000 hours available. 8,000 hours available. You know here that you cannot do everything. You cannot do everything because 4 hours times 15 plus 6 hours times 400 times 3 hours times 640, add them together will be far more than 8,000. So like we did in limiting factor, we will need to identify which one are we going to rank first, rank second, rank. So we're going to activate the knowledge of limiting factor. So which services are to be subcontracted and what is the total monthly variable cost of the company? So I'm going to open this question here again so that we will see the solution. Bring it nearby. Now look at the solution. I'm going to explain the solution. The problem here is to decide which work to subcontract. The ranking of job is established as follows. Now, you look at these three types of jobs here, this daily cleaning, intensive, minor repair, you put them as headings. These are the headings here. Now, what is the cost of doing this in-house? The cost of this doing it in-house is this 600, 180, and 560. And that's what we have here. Now, what is the cost of using a subcontractor? We have 80, we have 80, we have 1005, and we have 1000. So that's what we have here. Now, if we are to minus 600 from this here, that means the extra that you are paying for giving it outside is 200. Because of course we know that anyhow, you will pay 600. But now, giving it to a subcontractor, you are paying 200 naira extra. Intensive cleaning, you are paying 420 naira extra. You are also paying 440 naira extra. Now, what is this now? This is the cost, extra cost. So it's relevant, extra cost per job if you are going to outsource. Now, look at that extra cost that you are outsourcing. Now, it says here, one of these daily cleaning will cost you 4 hours. Intensive will cost you 6 hours. Minor repair will cost you 3 hours. Now, if you look at it now, these are these things here. If you give it out, that means anyone you give out, you are saving yourself that hours because you have subcontracted it. So it means if you are to subcontract daily cleaning, you'll be saving yourself 4 hours per job. 4 hours per job. This one is 6 hours per job. 3 hours per job. Now, what is the cost per hour that you are saving? It means if you are doing 200 naira above and you are saving yourself 4 hours per job, that means when you divide 200 divided by 4 hours, it means you are saving yourself 50 naira. It means this 200 you just gave out is as good as saying for every 1 hour, you have saved 50 naira. For every 1 hour, you have saved 50 naira. Now, normally it's 4 hours for one job, and you divide it by this extra, it means this is like 50 naira cost per hour you have saved. Now, the same thing here, 420 is the extra you are paying, 6 hours is the number of hours per job. When you divide, it means 17 naira per hour. And the same thing here, 140 naira per hour. So what it means is that 50 naira per hour is the least cost you are saving. Whereas, sorry, is the least cost you are saving. Whereas, okay, let me explain it this way. 140 naira is the highest cost per hour you are saving. That's why you are seeing first here. This is still second in both ways. 50 naira is the least cost you are saving. So what do you do? The least cost that you are going to save, you shouldn't be concentrating on doing it. The one that is the highest that you will save, the highest cost per hour saved, that is the one you should do. That's why you see priority for doing work with our own resources. The one you rank first is the one you should do. The one you rank second is the one you should secondly do. The one you rank third. Now, flip the coin the other way. That is the one you should give out. The one that is third should be the first you are giving out. The one that is first to do should be the last you should give out if possible. So what it means is that as you are doing this first one, the other party is doing this, you are saving yourself 140 that would have been spent giving this person to do it for you. You are saving 140 naira that should have been spent per hour doing the job by yourself. Now, you don't care about this 50 naira saved per hour. You want them to do it so you can afford to spend the 50 naira as against 140. So you see here that the company can do all three of these jobs more cheaply by its own staff. But because it is pressed for time, it will want to give out this one that the subcontractor is saying, give me 800 naira for this daily cleaning job. And it will want to give it out first before it gives out the second one or before it gives out the third one. So now let's look at the optimal plan now. You've done your ranking, optimal plan. So what you are saying here is the first thing you will do is your minor repairs, followed by intensive cleaning. So minor repairs is first, followed by intensive cleaning second, and office cleaning, which you rank third here, will be the last thing you will do. And you are told 8,000 hours is what you have. So what do? The number of jobs, the number of jobs, because you are doing minor repairs first. Minor repairs, you are doing 640, right? 640 is the budgeted job, right? Then 4 hours, okay, 3 hours per unit. So what you are going to do now is, let me write on this now. So this is simply 3 hours times 640. So what do we have? 3 times 640, that gives me this 1,920 hours. Okay, I have another calculator here, which I will now say we have a target of 8,000 hours. 1,900 hours has gone for doing the first job, which is minor repairs. So what will happen? That means 6,080 hours remaining, right? Now look at the second job, which is intensive cleaning. The budgeted job is 400, 6 hours per unit. So I will come here and say 6 times 400. So I'll use my first calculator. 400 times 6. That will give me 2,400. Now, 2,400 is lower than 6,080. So I will just remove my 2,400 from it. I have 3,600 remaining. That's fine. 3,600 is remaining. Of course, if you look at the last one, which is 15 times 4, let's do that and see what will happen. I'll do it up here. 1,500 times 4. What would that give us? 1,500 multiplied by 4. That should give us 6,000. But what we have left is 3,600. It means we cannot do everything in office cleaning. So we can do only 3,600. We can only do 3,600 hours. So we write it here and we say balancing figure. That's why you see the balance, 3,680. Fine. How many jobs will that give us? We have 4 hours per job. So what you simply do now is 3,680 divided by 4. So what would that give you? 3,680 divided by 4, that will give you 920. And that gives us this 920 job instead of the 1,500. So what have you done? You've done all of this 640, done all of this 400, but you have only done 920. So you have only done 920. Is that it? Yes, 920. How many is remaining? So you simply say, I'll put my minus here, remove it from 15. That means 580. 580 is what you're going to outsource. So you see it here, 580 is being outsourced here. So this is your outsource 580. You did 920, you are giving 580. So you are going to do as much as your 8,000 hours will carry. The rest you outsource. Now, look at the variable costs. What were the variable costs that was given to us here? 600. Okay, the first one is intensive 560. So we can come here and say multiplied by 560. So what would that give you? 640. 640 multiplied by 560. Now that gives us this 350, 400 we have here. Then we look at the second one here. The variable cost is 1,080. 1,080. 1,080. So I'll come here, multiply by 1,080. So let's do it together. 400 multiplied by 1,080. That gives me this 432. And of course, we have 600 as our variable cost in the last one. So I'll multiply this by 600. So I have here 600 multiplied by 920, and that gives me this 552,000. I'm going to add all these three together. So I will say plus 432,000 plus 358,400. Now that gives me this 1,342,400. Now that is the cost, variable cost of doing my job for this 8,000 hours. This is what I'm spending doing these other jobs in-house. Now look at this other one. You gave it to subcontractor, this daily cleaning 580, you give it to subcontractor and you're going to pay him 800. So you simply come here and multiply 800. So I'll use the other calculator now. I will say 580 multiplied by 800. That will give me 4640. So I have this other figure here, which is this plus 464,000. That gives me the total variable cost that I will spend when doing the whole job. Now that is make or buy with scarce resource. In our next class, we are going to take this second example with scarce resources so that we are going to integrate that with what we know today. So what have we done today? We've done limiting factor. We saw a question, a past question, and we try to make sense out of it, where we have acres of land and yield per ton, and we try to look at restrictions, limiting factors. We now went into short-term decision making. We concentrated on the make or buy, and we said the guiding principle is check the variable cost of making, compare it with the purchasing cost to buy it externally. Whichever one is smaller, if it is the variable cost in-house that is smaller, do it. If the purchase cost outside is smaller, purchase it. Then we now looked at make or buy with scarce resource. And that is using a limiting factor knowledge. So what we do now is we look at the extra cost of subcontracting it out versus the limiting factor that will be saved, or the scarce resource that will be saved. In this case, hours. Hours was the scarce resource. So what is the number of hours that will be saved? So we'll now bring it down to extra costs per scarce resource. So we now say extra cost of paying it out per hour, which is the scarce resource. It would have even been maybe units, and so we'll be saying extra cost per unit if unit was used, but now it was hours that is scarce. If it is naira, we could even say extra cost per naira. So extra cost in this example we did per hour. Even in the next example we are going to do is going to be extra cost per hour. So most times it's labor constrained. So you're going to be seeing extra cost per hour saved. You now rank. The one that will give you the highest extra cost saved per hour, you rank it one that is priority for you doing it in-house. The one that gives you the least extra cost saved per hour, that is the first you should give out. That is the least you should do in-house and the first you should give out. And so you will now do your production schedule and you will now rank and produce based on ranking. You do the one you ranked first in-house, second in-house, third in-house. The one that you cannot do, that is severely limited, you give it out. So it is possible in this example that we are going to do next that two, maybe one of them will be fully given out, and the second one we will share between what is to be given out and what is to be done. So that's just it. So you have to look at ranking based on how you will do it indoors, in-house. Then you rank again, flipping it, how you will give it out. So you do the ones that you can do using your scarce resource, then you give it out based on the ranking for giving out. Then you calculate your costs, calculate your profit or your contribution. So at this point in time, I won't be giving you assignments. I won't be giving you assignments, but I will call your attention to some of the questions that you may want to look out for when, for example, limiting factor, impact of overtime outsourcing to profit. This question number one is something you should watch out for because that integrates the knowledge that we've learned in scarce resource. Let's check again. Okay, when we discuss further processing, we will do this one. Okay. This is also another decision making. We'll take this one, we'll learn that. So you need to check from November 2019 down to May 2023. You'll see at least two questions that hampers on scarce resource. I know about it. You'll see two questions like that that you can attempt. But we're going to look for it when we finish this topic and we'll solve the second one. We're going to look at the other ones, then we'll look at some past questions that we can lay our hands on, and that will be end of that topic. So thank you so much for coming to class today and for making this class an interesting one. If you have any question, feel free to ask me on the WhatsApp. I'll be glad to answer that. If you still do not understand this topic, I will implore you to watch this video again and check where your knowledge gap is. And if you still do not understand, reach out to me. I'll be glad to help you. So thank you so much once again, and see you in the next class.